Welcome to the last video for this section. We spent the entire section setting up our computer for the rest of the course. We installed a bunch of tools and configured them, creating a good environment for writing and running JavaScript. So what are we going to do in this one? Well, we're going to test that everything is working by writing and running some JavaScript. To kick things off, what I want to do is create a directory where we can store all of the stuff we create in this course. I'm going to create one on the desktop of my computer, but if you already have a place you store your code, you're more than welcome to put it there. I'm going to put mine right on the desktop, and I'm going to call it JS Boot Camp. And we're going to be putting up a whole bunch of stuff inside of here throughout the course. For now, what we're going to do is create a new folder called Basics. And the basics directory is where we're going to start exploring the basics. So we're going to figure out how the fundamental features of the language works. And in the next section, we'll be adding about a dozen different files inside of here. For now, though, we can go ahead and crack open this folder in both the terminal and Visual Studio Code. We'll add a little bit of code in and we'll run the script. First up, let's navigate to it inside of the terminal. Now I put mine on the desktop and I'm currently inside of the desktop. I can prove that by running pwd. I get users, Andrew, desktop. If I want to switch over to the basics folder, I use cd to go into JS Bootcamp. Then I use cd again to go into the basics directory. You can actually also chain that command together. So I can go back to directories by not using cd ... but cd ... /.. This is going to bring me up to folders, and I can use cd to navigate into both using one command too. So I'm back on the desktop, cd space JS Bootcamp / basics. Excellent. So I'm in the basics folder inside of the terminal. Let's go ahead and move over to Visual Studio Code. Over here, we're going to go ahead and open up a new directory that's sitting on the desktop inside of JS Bootcamp. We want to open the basics folder. I'm going to crack that open. And now what we're going to see is a view similar to what we'll have for the rest of the course. We have our files and folders over here, and we have the individual contents of the file right here. We don't have any files, so let's go ahead and create our first one. Inside of the basics folder, I'm going to click this icon to add a brand new file, and we're going to call this one hello world.js. All we're going to do is create a one-liner to print out a little message to whoever runs the script. We're not going to talk about the syntax, the characters that make up this line. We're just going to type these characters blindly to test that the environment is indeed working. So for the moment, you're going to follow along with about the next 12 characters. We're going to start off with the word console, which we'll be talking about later in the course. Then we're going to add a dot, the period character, followed by the word log. Now you can see that we're starting to get some syntax highlighting from Visual Studio Code. This is going to break up our code and make it way more readable. And we'll explore more of that in the next section when we actually learn about JavaScript. For now, we're just going to type blindly and ignore why console is green and log is yellow. From here, we're going to open a parenthesis. So that's going to be Shift 9. And you can see that it's automatically closed for us. Inside of here, we're going to open up a single quote. This is also automatically closed for us. And all we're going to do is type hello world. Now we don't know what this program does. I don't know why there's parentheses, why there's quotes, why there's dots. That's okay. All we want to do is get this stuff typed in the file. We want to save the file, then we want to execute it. We're going to execute it by running a single command from the terminal. Let's kick things off by clearing the terminal with clear. To run the JavaScript file, we're going to be using the node command. It is node space followed by the file name. In this case, that would be hello-world.js. Now, when I hit enter, it's actually going to go off, grab the contents of this script. It is going to run them, and we're going to see the output of the file. If I run the program, what do we get? We get hello world printing as the message for our program. Is this the most useful program in the world? No, but it does at least prove that our environment is all set up so we can work towards actually figuring out what stuff like this does. Now we can go ahead and change this real quick. If I change world over to my first name, Andrew, and toss an exclamation mark at the end, we can save the file and rerun it to see that print instead. Over here, node space, hello-world.js And what do we get? We get hello Andrew printing to the screen. So throughout the course, we're going to be creating JavaScript files over in Visual Studio Code, and we're going to be executing them over in the terminal. Later on in the course, we'll be executing them in the browser, but this is the setup that we're going to start with. Now it's time to start figuring out exactly what these characters mean, what they do, and how we can use them to do something meaningful. That's all coming up in the next section where we dive into JavaScript basics. I am really excited to get to that, so let's go ahead and jump into it.